some holiday 1927, don't know what that username is supposed to mean, learned a big lesson today. They escalated a situation that they panicked about quickly, thought a feature was misinterpreted and therefore out of scope for launch. Immediately jumped into creating a Slack channel, voiced my concerns, and all of a sudden there were 15 people in the channel. Immediately freaked out and stepped out of the situation, sending a quick request for confirmation rather than escalation. The lesson that they learned was know your touch points. If you think it can get done in one or two private conversations, that's the better way to do it than spiraling and imagining the worst and bringing everyone into your panic. And I like this one just because it is a good lesson learned. I think it's a thing that happens in a bunch of situations with people, whether it's bugs, whether it's working with clients, whether it's engineering stuff. It's if you're in a situation where you're not able to just take a step back and take 30 minutes, think it through, take a deep breath, go and look up some stuff, go reach out to a couple of people. I've been in situations where I've had tech support managers who have absolutely been the person who freaks and panics and yells, there's a brand new ticket coming in from Bank of America. They're our number one client. You must go and solve this immediately. Solve it, solve it, solve it. And the answer always, 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 always is tell that person to shut up. You can be nice about it, but basically they need to calm down because you need to calm down because you're going to make a bad decision when you rush and panic through this thing. Nothing that you work on, unless you're in the army or I don't know, a hospital. Like you're not, if you're working in software 99,999 times out of 100,000, is that the math I'm doing there? You're not in a situation where you don't have 30 minutes. Take that step back, think through everything, and recognize what's actually going on. You don't need to create the emergency Slack channel almost always.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think most of the points that make me cringe in my career are where I still do it today, right? Lose your composure and get angry, or jump to a scenario that was never going to happen, make an
Right?
assumption. um, so sometimes those things are easy to clean up. Other times they can linger and can contribute to a lack of confidence in yourself, right? But also
Yep.
the people around you. So I think I'm with you. Like you got to take the time, verify research. Like 30 minutes is not a long time, certainly as it relates to OP's concerns here, because it sounds like days, weeks, right? Like they have time. So 30 minutes
Right.
is not a lot. If you have, if you've got a release at the end of the day and you're sort of in that wall planning tactical, yeah, sometimes you have 3 minutes instead of 30, but
Sure.
um
But that's the thing that applies. It always the first thing should always be go check what's going on with
yeah.
somebody else. Like take the opportunity. You're not alone in these things ever.
Yeah. I think the other thing too is like one of the tactics that I've highlighted in my notes here is you can still have that Slack conversation, but you're sort of you're blending point one and point two here. So you start the conversation as a fact finding mission.
Right.
Try to simplify your concerns into a narrative, like as questions. So it's accomplishing the same thing. You're actually using the group that you're going to be talking to with all of your angst. You're gonna do that without the angst, and don't apply assertions to it. Like ask the questions, and then if you've done a good job of simplifying and providing enough of those parameters, then if you're right, someone's going to pick up on that, right? Like they're going to see, like, well, doesn't that introduce these problems, right? And now you can start to have a more calm and calculated conversation. So yeah, and if they don't, I sort of highlighted here, sometimes you're sitting on a call with people and they don't see the problem, and it could be that there isn't one, or it's there, right? So yeah, I just, yeah, you can certainly do the same thing, get into the conversation with the same people, and just calm. Again, it comes back to the meeting conversation, the meeting discussion, right? Like the types of people that you're in a meeting with can influence how you use them to improve your game. So I can imagine being on a fact.
And you can influence them the other direction. When you come in with 14 exclamation marks, all caps, your tone is freaking out and urgent. If you're in the call and you're visibly panicking, you're going to make them react that way. Like
Yeah.
you also are going to be responsible for, hey guys, notice this, just wanted to ask some questions. Why isn't this happening? Can we take a look at this? Like your tone in that conversation is going to be as equally as important.
Yeah, and it's science, people. Listen, it's science. Like the brain functions this way, right? Like fight or flight. Like these things, they didn't just
Right?
make these things up because it's like, oh, sounds cool. They rhyme. It's like, no, it's because different people react differently to threats and anger and confrontation and survival techniques. Like some people kick in, some people will fight you. And so just to your point, like if I go in there and I'm super aggressive, like they're not even listening to my points anymore. Some of those people are just
Some of those people
intimidated.
fully shut down. They
Yeah,
have
they're shut
fully just
down.
been like, nope, I don't deal with confrontation this way. I'm no longer hearing anything you're
Yeah.
saying. So now the problem's doubled. Maybe my recommendation to people, I think my recommendation to a lot of people is everyone should be in a service job. Everyone's benefits from having to be in a situation, whether you're a waiter, whether you're a customer support person, whether you're answering phones, whether you're even these days the chatbot person responding back, because none of that's AI, by the way. But yeah, get yourself into these situations early in your career and learn how to deal with stress and learn how to deal with, actually, no, we're not curing cancer here today. It's okay. I'm going to take this rationally and calmly.
Yeah, and there's another good technique. It actually is harder to do with like a Slack channel versus like being on a meeting that's recorded. But we used to do this with coaches. If it, it's common for coaches at a fairly decent level. Um, they can be a little more forceful because it's a high level. You're working with academy kids, and often what we would do is we would record those coaches so they could see themselves, and it was only when they saw themselves that they can understand, like, hey, these kids are still 12, right? Like
Right.
it was only when they saw the video of themselves and that they really were able to understand, like, yeah, I'm probably not treating these kids like they're 12.
Right.
So if you're
Yeah.
ever on a video that you think you've lost your cool in, watch the recording because it'll sober you up really, really quickly.
There you go. Amazing.